guys, welcome back to the channel. I just got my May paper pumpkin kit in the mail and thought it would be fun to dive into it. I've been very diligently avoiding spoilers, so I wanted to do more of an honest unboxing slash thoughts, just so we could play around with it and see what we can make. Usually these kits make about 9 cards, although they're always a surprise, so they kind of range month over month. This month's box has no branding. If you saw my other unboxing video, oops. If you saw my other unboxing video, the one that I got for free is actually different, right? So this is very much branded in sort of the Autumn Splendor stuff. And yes, we will look at that at some point, but this is this month's, and I have no spoilers. I'll guess broadly Father's Day because that's kind of the next holiday or something along those lines. But other than that, I do not know. Let me just get myself even. As you guys probably are aware, and I may have mentioned, Stampin' Up! Basically has 3 tiers of kits available. This and the more expensive of the kits tier, just through the online store, always come with ink and a stamp. So let us see what we got. I will use a piece of my grungy background and see if we can't see what we have. It says the best something. Yeah, happy Father's Day. There's some tree artwork and a couple other sentiments that are a bit challenging to read, so hopefully the instructions will tell us what they say. These are also easier if you ink them up, but um, anyway, the thing I actually like about the paper pumpkins and the larger kits is that they generally are pretty sentiment heavy. So we've got Happy Father's Day, but then we have a couple other things that I don't think are explicitly Father's Day, which is nice. But we'll see. What does this say? You're the best dad, I think. It might just say you're the best. I don't know. We'll find out. And these always come with a little ink cube as well. This one is in Misty Moonlight, which is kind of a gray blue. I like the foam pads a lot better because I'm just not a felt ink pad person. But if you are a felt ink pad person, you can actually get empty ones of these and put whatever colors you want in there. We nicely have some tissue paper, which kind of coordinates with the ink. So I'm thinking, if this is indicative, maybe we're doing sort of a blue, sort of like a cerulean blue and like a slate blue. I could be wrong. Oh, I am seeing wood, which makes me happy. So what do we got? The best there is. Also, save your packing tissue paper. Oh, this coordinates with this, I guess. Because you can do some really interesting collage techniques with it. We've done, I think, on the channel some sort of collagey backgrounds in the past. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. It is a free material that you get. The major difference between the paper pumpkins and the more expensive kits is just that the paper pumpkin includes shipping and is in auto ship, basically. So, and you don't know what it is. So it's always a surprise. I see they had a suite this that also had this sort of a hexagon thing. So let's see what we get. I am liking the wood theme. This is a very me color palette, so I am quite happy about this. Some of my friends who are more experienced with Stampin' Up have been giving me tips, so there's that. It's always interesting to know how little you know. All these kits come with instructions. This one is, let's see if this is anything. Oh, this is cool. So this is actually the stamp set. I don't think on the holiday kits this was done, but the neat thing is, you know what I mean? Like this is the actual size of these things. So it's cool to get the actual stamp artwork so that you could essentially fold this in half or cut it. What you can do is just basically do this. And then if you're storing this in an envelope, right, you can just store it like this. Not that I'm a packaging person, but this is pretty cool because then you'd know what it said. And it's hard to read stamps backwards unless you're not me. Um, so happy Father's Day. You're the best there is. I like this. Very generic. You could use it for anybody. Not tied to this kit. Says with love and admiration to the a most amazing person. Again, I like that it's not explicitly Father's Day. I mean, generally, I like when I guess I'll say that sentiments can be used for different things. So we will ignore the instructions for now and see what we get because I'm always more interested in that. I guess to complete my last thought, and then online there's a less expensive kit that doesn't include stamps, so it's just entirely consumables. So we have these really interesting sort of almost splatter gem kind of things. They're like flat dots, but they have sort of a little bit of marbling to them. So they're almost like a faux marble. Love these. Very easy to ship. Love, I like cards that don't cost extra postage. We have a sheet of foam adhesive, the mini Stampin' Dimensionals, which are little hexagons, but if you have standard foam tape, that works too. And we have a bunch of envelopes. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Oh, we have 10 envelopes. That's interesting. We have nine. It's nice that we got an extra envelope. I'm going to count those to make sure I'm not wrong. So we have three, six. You'd think there would just be nine because there are nine cards. Oh, there are nine. I can't count. So there are nine envelopes. All the envelopes are the same. They are this wood pattern. If you don't really get much use out of fancy envelopes, you can, of course, cut these up and just use it as pattern paper. Um, there's no texture to this, but you could see how you could make a pretty cool background for any kind of a card where wood wouldn't be appropriate, camping, all that kind of stuff. So I'll set these aside. And what do we get? We have some panels which are almost doing what I just said. These are a slightly heavier weight, but these are the pre-printed panels, which looks like what's going to be part of a second card. Then there are a bunch of punch outs that you can stamp on. These are white, but they come in hexagons and a bunch of other stuff. We have birds outside, which have nothing at all to do with our card kit. We have, I think I dropped one on the floor. I did. I'm good at dropping things. We have three more. These are very evocative of the country woods pattern paper. So in theory, if you want to mix, you could basically look at get sort of a teal, a pale teal, and a dark navy, and any kind of brown. And like in theory, you could stretch these a lot, which a lot of people do, right? Because you could cut this right down the middle and then have two strips and then do things with them. I actually really like these cards, so I may make them more true to form. And then we have some tan and white card bases. I do like this because then you don't need to use a little layering piece. Kind of a neat thing. I am actually really liking these. I shouldn't be surprised, but one never knows. These are the hexagon card. The most of this is printed, which makes it looks like there's probably going to be some kind of floral die cuts, foliage and whatnot. But that this is all pre-done is sort of a benefit to these kits, if that's a thing you like. Um, Again, some nice medallions. I like how wood goes through this. This is giving me a lot of, and then this is the last one. Again, these are very evocative of papers that I don't have, but hopefully we'll get soon when the post office is nice to me. But I'm going to grab all the pieces I need to punch, and I'm going to do all my punching. Going to move my adhesive away. And if you like wet glue, you can certainly use that, of course. These are all basically card bases. These are all panels. And what we're going to do is plagiarize Club's scrap a little bit and punch everything out and then do the deal where we basically stick everything together. Let me even out my face lighting because that was driving me slightly nuts, but that's okay. We all have our little things. Anyway, that's this. Then we have a bunch of laser cut, very fine die, like very fine foliage pieces that we will need to punch out. You see, you have kind of these thin foliage pieces, and then this is probably for gluing. As you see, we have this diamond here, so basically these can kind of go behind that. And these probably will allow us to get this set up. So we have one, two, three. Yeah, so basically these three go together on the hexagonal card. Anyway, let's get to punching and sorting. Nice sort of kit contents showing you which I'm sorry, that's upside down. Which stuff goes to which card, which we figured out without looking in it. Then we have suggestions on things to do. I think we'll skip the tree envelopes because I generally just use white envelopes, but it's nice to know that that is an option. Let me see what. Yeah, so they're suggesting using some dimension on the centerpiece to create more dimension. I think I actually want to try this one flat. I think I definitely want to. They're suggesting popping up this main piece. I think I want to pop up this sediment piece as opposed to that. And then this one, I think I will just leave flat. Oh, I see. The blue actually goes to this first card. Anyway, so I think they mostly follow it, but I don't love dimension as much as some people do. So I'm going to treat these more as flat cards. If you have a bone folder around, you can use that. If you don't have a bone folder, really, you don't need a specialized tool. Um, so really, you could do anything. These are probably about an 80-pound weight. They're definitely not going to cause you any extra postage, so that's cool. They're more of a lighter weight card base. So these are all pre-scored, so I was just able to fold them with my hand. So I have misplaced my um, words today. I misplaced my bone folder somewhere. Gonna just get these out and let us grab a block and do some stamping. This one is going to use this wordier sentiment. I actually like all the sentiments here, so I'm not going to do any subbing of that. This is the one that says, with love and admiration to the most amazing person, which could go to anybody. The other nice thing about these, using these hexagons, is that you don't really have to worry about what the top and the bottom is. I think we will use the included ink because I do like the color. We will see perhaps if I was a little unfair on the pads in the past. There we go. As you can see, this is a pretty saturated ink pad. I'm just going to use my fingers on the stamp. And then the one nice thing about, well, I guess it depends if you like them or not, but one of the things I like about these little ink cubes is that they're pretty easy to get into the nooks and crannies of a sentiment stamp. Let us see how well this is stamping, because as you know, I am a real big fan of Versifying Clear Twilight, so let's see how this works. Oh, well, that came out pretty great. Little too much pressure, but other than that, it is good. So I think we can move forward with this ink color. I like to kind of do a combination of like rubbing and then sort of tapping when I'm done. And then I'm going to turn this right way up so it makes sense in my head. And basically find the center here and stamp with some determination. You don't want to like put your whole body on top of these or anything because There we go. Little light on the bottom. We can try the opposite side just to see how we feel about it. That is, of course, the nice thing about these is you have two sides. Gonna make sure I just sort of rock it back and forth, and there we go. We got all of the thing. And that one I really like, so we will stick with that. And then we will ink up again and do the other two. I do find that essentially if you do the same step over and over again, it will make this a lot more time efficient. But again, it kind of depends on the individual and what you like. Basically, there we go. And one tip I got from a friend of mine that I really like is like if your stamp is a little off center, it can actually like if you align it more towards using this like a diamond, sometimes it can be easier to hold a stamp block this way rather than trying to do it straight this way. Anyway, that is the first sentiment all done. And let us put these together. So I am going to grab my glue press and probably use wet glue for this. So the first thing we need is I believe this is wild wheat as the color. And one of these little teal ones, light teal. And we can just sort of play around with this depending. I think it's gonna look I kind of like the teal sort of breaking, I don't know, the walls, if you will, of the hexagon. And what we can do is just put the two dots on top of each other, figure out like where exactly we want this. The more you put it, I kind of like it up like this so that it's sort of on one side more than the other. So I think this is about what I'm going to do. Um, these are not very thick, but if you are worried about potentially having from the actual hexagon sag a little bit, what we can do is just grab some random cardstock on our desk. This is some pink, and what we can basically do is just put a little bit of cardstock under this, and then once this is all together, it will keep the top level. So just get that down. The nice thing is this paper is fairly porous, so glue sticks pretty nicely. Oh goodness, I'm off center again. There we go. So these are the three card. These are the first. This is the first set of three. I really do like these. They definitely have a masculine vibe, but they're more probably going to give you more of a. I don't know that they're specifically Father's Day. I'm just curious. Yeah, the one I supported, like if you actually run your hands over it, you can feel the difference, but I don't know that you can tell in real life. So let us move on. So these guys are the next card. This one should come together pretty quickly. You can usually tell as well. Oops. All right, back. You can usually tell also based on the size of the stamp. For example, like I'm just wiping this off with a baby wipe, but you can clean it with stamp cleaner if you want. Like this stamp is like way too big to stamp here. Just as a for instance, we'll put that guy back. I believe this is the you're the best one, and then yeah. So what you can do is just kind of figure out where you want this to go. And then just pick it up on your block. Once you have ink on this, it becomes a lot easier to tell like where things are. I'm just going to use the oils on my hands to get off any of the coating that comes from machining these photopolymer stamps so that we can really get a nice impression, hopefully. Of course, like the other ones, this is pretty easy. I really do like this color. I like this color more than I thought I would. Um, and you can see, like, if you, I don't know if it's reading through on camera a little bit. When you start working with photopolymer stamps, the ink will bead up a little bit. I'm just going to rock this to make sure I get a good impression. There we go. So you have this sort of beaded up look, which I don't mind, but some people don't like it. So if that's an issue, if the thing you're not a fan of, really all you need to do is condition your stamp a little bit by using a stamp cleaner and like stamping it a couple times on some other paper, and it will basically get your stamp to the point where it doesn't do that. I think in the sort of in the vibe of this kit, I actually kind of dig it, but again, it's a personal preference. If we grab the samples once this is done, there we go. You're the best. If we look at the if you look at the sample, it looks much more solid. But again, it's a personal preference. It's a thing that will come clean. One of my friends worked on a coffee stamp set that had the same thing, and I actually liked it because it sort of made sense in the like in the well, I just got ink all over myself. Let's try that again. Um, in sort of the context of coffee, it kind of made sense to me that like, if you get a latte, there is sort of speckliness to it. But again, it wasn't intentional. It was just that that's how it had worked out, and that's fine. You also don't need to push really hard. You're just trying to make sure you have contact with the paper, and then you just leave it for a couple seconds, and there you go. I kind of like this look. So, these cards actually will come together lickety split because basically we're just putting we're just gonna put the best on top of this layer, and like that's the card. So the neat thing about this is if you do have like scene pattern paper, um, I would often find it's the hardest paper to actually work with because I don't know like when I'm going to need a scene, but things like this is a really good way to utilize it because this is probably a 4 inch, yeah. No, it's a little less than that. This is not a 4 inch panel. This is about 3.5. But basically you can just cut a matte layer. So we're gonna get a good bit of surrounding card, which is nice because I really like this particular pattern quite a bit. But this is probably the quickest of the three cards because basically we're just cutting a sentiment area. We are folding our cards, and then we just need to adhere the base. I'm a big fan of these ATG guns. Or I should say because I think they just make life easier if you're doing mass making. If you're just doing a couple, the smaller size sentiments or the smaller tape rolls are a lot nicer in that they're a lot less to store. So I'm just going to put this in the middle, and there we go. And then just repeat, repeat, repeat. I really like the small rolls of adhesive when I started out card making, just because they're a lot easier to store and they're not as bulky. And yeah, um, it just is generally, it just was easier to get into. But now that I do a lot of mass making, where you're making maybe 10 or 12 cards at once, I really do appreciate the fact that this doesn't require as much reloading. So use whichever makes sense for you. I mean, I think the nice thing about these cards is you can actually travel with them. And if you did use the foam dots to put this all together, you actually don't need another adhesive. So I like these kits a lot if you wanted to like take something on vacation with you and like make it somewhere and then basically just mail the cards from wherever you're at. Because I always think that's a cool thing to do when you're on vacation is to get a postmark from wherever you actually were on vacation. So I'm just going to glue these. Now we have a couple options. Let me show you both. You can glue these where the banner is at the top of the card, which kind of creates this neat, like, well, I didn't glue that very well. Let's try that again. That is the benefit of wet glue. When you mess it up, you can Um, and if you really want to get this lined up, you can definitely use any kind of block or whatever to basically. I used this a lot when I was getting started just to make sure you were square. And there we go. Anyway, crisis averted. Anyway, I really like taking card kits like this with me, especially if they're simple like this particular one. And you can always break down your kits and then put them back together. You could rebag this and just bring a little part of it with you. And the nice thing is you don't need to bring a paper trimmer, which is often kind of a pain. Now, if you want more of the background and want this to be more grounded towards this sort of scene paper, you can also do it this way. I think the first one is a little bit more interesting, but either one works certainly. So I think my third one I will do like the first one because I like it better. And I'll use my trick again. Blocks are really nice because they're just sort of multi-purpose tools. You can of course use them for stamping, but they also work really nicely for just as weights, right? Because if you wanted to make sure this glued, you just leave it here. You can walk away. It's fine, or work on something else. For those of us, this is not a magnetic mat, so if you have a magnetic mat, you can use magnets for that. But these went together super fast. I think we got these done in real time in maybe about 5 minutes. So, I mean, things like this are great for quick and easy options. I don't know if I actually need to use any of this bling. I kind of like these cards simple, given sort of the vibe of them, because they feel like more simple cards. I kind of like the idea of leaving them simple, so I might do that. Anyway, that is our second set of cards. Let me just pull this guy off, put him back, or her, I guess. Grab the Father's Day one. I will just stick that right on the block. You can also use your baby wipe on this as well, which will help to condition it. So we have our pieces to stamp. We have our little tree medallions, which if you did use this stamp on the envelope, I think that would be pretty cool, especially on this card, just because it would give you sort of a tie through. There are 3 panels. This one I think I will pop up. And this just says Happy Father's Day. As you can see, if you can see this, this is a little not even. So what I'm gonna do, a trick for that, especially with these long sentiments that are easy to sort of curve this way or that way, is if you grab, I'll use this one. If you just put it down on your work surface, it will even off. It's sort of a problem of peeling off the sheet and putting directly on a block. So now I'll just pick it up again. And if we want, you can actually use, this is the back of this, but you could certainly use that to practice stamping on too if you want. I generally use copy paper because I almost always have some kind of copy paper around. That is scrap from something or another. So we are going to. And you see this time around, it's hard to see, but it's a lot less bendy, which is great. So I'm just gonna find the center here and press. And I like to rock back and forth. Um, Your F got a little extra ink. I think that really doesn't matter. I think the neat thing about sort of the distressed look of this card kit is like it feels like a less exact card to me anyway, which I think is nice. It's especially nice, I think, if you're new to stamping. There we go. This one came out fantastic. That one I really like. Um, And with these use exactly the same reinkers as the other pads, so it's not like you need a special reinker or anything. Um, and you don't actually need big stamp pads. You could just use the little ones. And I think the little ones are nice too because they really are easy to store. And there we go. Because they've sort of got a concave bottom, you can stack them as well, I think. Although there are a bunch of mini stamp cube storage systems on the market too if you want something a little more in depth. Whoops, let me get this back. Cover my ink so I don't put my hand in it. Put that to the side. And these are this is almost like the crumb cake color, I think. Because it doesn't quite match the wood, but it's pretty close. It may be the new beige that came out with this catalog that I haven't gotten a chance to look at yet. So we have these guys. We have all these pieces. I want to definitely use my dimension on this sentiment, I think. But let me get the bases down. And you can go either direction with these, obviously, depending on what you prefer. I'm going to grab my double-sided tape adhesive. And if you aren't a big fan of these applicators, you can also just use the double-sided tape that does not come in an applicator too. It works the same way, basically. I'm just going to eyeball this border so it's about the same on all sides. There we go. That looks pretty good. You have a little play with double-sided tape, but once it's down, it's down. So the nice thing is there's no dry time. The bad thing is if you oopsie it, taking it apart has a tendency to rip your card base. So if that's not a thing you love, uh, let's say either be careful. Whoops. And this is sort of a side effect of these kind of tape systems is like every so often it's just going to do a weird thing and then you're going to need to futz with it. So I don't know. I don't think there's a perfect option. It just sort of depends on you and what you prefer. So let me just eyeball this. There's the second one, and then we'll do this one more time. Like, this is definitely a card I'm going to use some dimension on. The original instructions have this whole panel popped up, I believe. So just FYI. I tend to like a flatter card, but that's more of an aesthetic choice than anything. And the way these things go together is we put or at least I'll say, according to the instructions, have the medallion, what I'm calling the medallion off to the left. And then you're basically going to attach these together to sort of use this as kind of a drop layer, like a drop shadow. You could actually trim this off if you want it to sort of mimic the hexagon a little bit more. And then this is just sort of to the side, so you can do sort of like that. I do like that look. I want to pop this piece up and leave this one flat, I think. So, to that end, I'm going to grab my glue, although you could use tape, and just put a little glue. I'm just putting a little glue line down the bottom here, and then I'm going to see how I want that to look. Just burnish it down, realize it's crooked, and get it up before it sets, and fix that, because, I prefer to not have a crooked sentiment. But then we can just let this dry for a minute, and we should be good to go. You could also, of course, put your glue on the blue piece if that's more to your liking. The nice thing about these strong white glues is they generally dry matte, especially my preferred glue, which is Line Co. There we go. Very nice. And that worked so well, we can do it a second time. If you do, it's hard to see on camera, but if you get any extra glue on here, you can just wipe it off with your finger, and then you should be good to go. This one is like the first one, got a little off center. The wet glue, you have some working time, but not forever, just FYI. There we go. So I will then glue down these medallions, and I don't need a bunch of glue on here, but looking at the card, this is pretty centered. So I will, I think, continue with that. So we're kind of centering. It's off to the right, but it's centered top to bottom. So we can just continue with that. And oops, I think I did an oopsie. Yeah. So I forgot that we have these pieces left over that actually go under the medallion. So let's go fix that. As you can see, if you are notice we got some pattern paper on this, pulling this up. It's not really going to matter once we get it back down, but I'm just going to sort of futz with my foliage until I like where it is, and then reapply glue and put this back down, and hopefully not forget to do that next time. Anyway, if you prefer a simpler look, you can also, of course, omit the dark blue foliage here. I think it's a really nice look, though. I really like this, how this is really tone on tone. It's subtle, but um, oops, we'll definitely pull this in. And then you can just sort of ground this to the side. Actually, I kind of like this flat. I don't know why I'm liking flat cards today, but I really am. So I think I'll do this one that way, and then we can do one of the other ones popped up just for a comparison point. So these are the three Father's Day cards. I like these. I think they very nicely encapsulate sort of the Stampin' Up! Kit vibe, which is sort of simple. Like, no one's gonna look at these and think they're cards you spent like all day on, but they're simple but really elegant and pretty. So I think that's sort of the vibe we're going for here. And I think that we achieved that. So that is good news. If you're interested in getting this or any other kits, there are links down below. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the description box and I will be happy to answer them for you. Thanks much and have a great rest of your day.